2, 1. Oh shit. Welcome everybody to Geekvice episode 261, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph. That man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
We are back. This is like 2 weeks in a row after being gone for so long. It feels so great to be back. And for those of you watching the show on the YouTubes, you get to see my new shirt, which says Goonies Never Say Die, with One-Eyed Willie in the middle. I love it.
Best shirt ever.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Yeah, we are back for another week. What have you been up to this last week there, Kip? Anything fun? Anything exciting?
Oh, man, I took a whole week off of work.
Oh, shoot.
It was great.
That's nice.
We went to Abilene, Kansas to visit the President Eisenhower Library and Museum. We went to Atchison, Kansas to visit the museum for Amelia Earhart.
That's cool.
Yeah, both of those things are very cool. I kind of dig history, so I was in all that stuff. Plus the windshield time was kind of nice. So
yeah, those are both things that I want to take my Reese to, because he's really into history too. So it'll be good.
Yeah, the Amelia Earhart stuff. It's you go to the house she was born in and stuff like that, but they've got like a festival.
Yeah.
And everything. So when you do take him, make sure you coincide it with the festival so you get the full experience. We did not.
Gotcha.
And it's like, wow, I don't feel like I totally got immersed into this thing. It's like, well, next time.
Right.
We'll be there for the festival. So
okay. Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then it rained on the 4th of July, so we binged watched Stranger Things and then just got some stuff done around the house. I made pulled pork in the Instapot.
Yeah? How'd that go?
Phenomenal.
Yeah?
Wow, was it good. Yeah.
I'll have to send you Amber's recipe for carnitas in the Instapot.
Nice. I'll try that.
They are delicious. You cook them in the Instapot, and instead of cooking them like all day long, like carnitas normally have to cook for like 12, 14 hours, you can cut that cooking time down, and then you just broil them in your oven to get them crispy. Like, ooh, it's great.
Like it. Yeah, the pulled pork takes 90 minutes in the Instant Pot.
Yeah.
And then I saw a video where for shredding the pulled pork, they put it in their stand mixer.
Yeah.
And I did that, and that worked out fantastic. So
that's how we do pulled pork that way, and then we'll also do chicken. Like if you need to do shredded chicken, you boil your chicken and throw it in your stand mixer and with the paddle on, like the dough paddle, and it'll just shred it all right there, and it's super quick.
Yeah, that's what I did.
It's amazing. And didn't you guys know, like, you're gonna turn into Geekvice and get a whole cooking lessons? Woo!
This is the most cooking stuff I've talked about. I mean, I did it at work.
Yeah.
Now here on the podcast. Who knew I was going to turn into that guy?
Yeah, I don't cook, so all of the stuff that I say that we've had, I make sure to not say I do it. The only thing I do is I'm a pretty good sous chef. So I'm the guy that just stands on the side and she hands me something that says, "Here, cut this up." Okay.
No, I do it all. I am my own sous chef. I actually do all the cooking.
Nice.
Yeah. So
no, I hate cooking. I want nothing to do with it. And the kids know when it's my turn to cook, it's usually going to be something crappy, like, box mac and cheese or spaghetti and meatballs.
Frozen pizza or something.
Frozen pizzas. I've done that. I will break out breakfast stuff every once in a while. I can make French toast. I can make pancakes. I can do
See?
waffles.
Yeah, you're kicking butt.
Yeah, pancakes and waffles are both out of like the box mix, so it's like you don't even have to add an egg to it. But French toast, I at least like that. I have to look up the recipe and actually like mix the ingredients. So I call that like kind of cooking.
Hey, you didn't go to a restaurant and purchase it. It's cooking.
There you go. So you're telling me I'm like kind of
You're a
good at
chef. You are a chef.
it. Said no one ever.
And
All
then,
right. Yeah. What else do you do?
well, before we got online, I was watching PBS. Yep, I'm that guy as well. And we're almost to the 50th anniversary of the first time man set foot on the moon.
Ooh.
So that's been fascinating to watch. And it got me thinking, how cool would it be to have that happen again?
To be the first guy to step on the moon?
No, to have somebody that we could watch fly to the moon and take steps on the moon.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened in your lifetime.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, yeah, I guess you're right because we kind of don't really go back to the moon now, do we?
No, the space. No,
We
I
just,
was almost going to say the space program ended in the 70s, but the moon landings ended in the 70s.
yeah,
So yeah, so I don't know. There's just that whole when you watch them, that whole sense of national pride and everything of watching all that. It'd be very cool to live that.
yeah, yeah.
Because
That
when
would be
Neil
cool.
Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and Mike Collins went, I was 2 years old.
Right.
So I wasn't feeling a lot of national pride at that time.
Well, and even that, I mean, it'd just be kind of cool to have something that you could stand by and say, "Hey, this is." It'd be really cool for something to be the first time you've ever seen it happen. You know, the first time it's ever happened too. You know, and not something like cheesy, like the first time, some silly, goofy like sports thing or something like that. You know, no more like some big astronomical feat that nobody thought was possible would be really cool if that was the first time it
Yeah,
happened
like
was in your
like the
lifetime.
first
Like,
time we put somebody on Mars.
yeah,
I hope that happens in my lifetime.
yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
The first time we have a reusable shuttle, that would be pretty cool. I mean,
We
they're
did have reusable shuttles.
yeah, no, they had to tear them all apart and rebuild them. Like they didn't just like put them right back up into space. No, I mean like
That
what
is true. You're talking like the SpaceX stuff right now,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, like the stuff where it can like take off and actually like come down and land and not have to like crash. Cuz that's kind of what those things did back in the days. Um, I guess the shuttles kind of landed.
They did land. I mean, I'm old enough that I remember um, the space shuttle's maiden flights. The
Yeah.
first space shuttle was actually the USS Enterprise. I don't know if people remember that, but it was piggybacked on a 747, and then once it reached altitude, it disengaged from the 747 and flew on its own, and then landed on its own. I remember all that
Oh
stuff.
wow. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
remember that.
Well, yeah, you weren't born yet,
Nope.
so.
Probably not.
Well,
Was
uh,
that in the 70s?
I don't remember what year that was. I was in sixth grade. How old are you in sixth grade?
You'd be like 11, 12.
Yeah, so it was late 70s.
Okay. Yeah. So it was probably before I was born.
Yep. And then the first shuttle to actually go into space, I think, was the Columbia.
Yeah. I do
But the
remember that.
Enterprise was the very first space shuttle. And I remember all that stuff.
Man, I don't remember that one. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So what did
Very
you do
cool.
last week? Anything fun?
Well, we shot off fireworks.
Well, of
because
course.
we didn't get as much rain, and we actually like ended, and then it rained like after we were done, which was kind of cool. Um, but yeah, shot off fireworks. We went and saw Spider-Man: Far From Home, which we're going to talk about today. We also, you know what? If I was thinking, I would have got it out. But I can show you the controllers for the new thing that we got. They look like this.
Oh, you got one.
We got a Nintendo Switch. Um, that is my oldest son. That's what he wanted for his birthday this last year, and or that's what he wanted. He wanted a Nintendo Switch. He wanted a new console. He narrowed it down to Nintendo Switch, and we told him that we would give him part of it. We would pay for part of it, but he had to pay for the rest of it. You know, trying to teach fiscal responsibility and saving
Gotcha.
money and doing chores to get money and that kind of stuff. So he asked for money for his birthday. He asked for money for Christmas so that he could put it all towards this Switch. And finally, we had enough. And after our trip, he had even made some money off of our trip. Um, and by not being an ass and helping out and not complaining all the time like his little brother. And we had enough money, so we went and we actually sold back the Wii, or sold the Wii to GameStop. And I expected to get, like, I mean, I had a stack of games, probably, yeah, probably 10, 15 games, maybe 20. The Wii, which is actually broken, so they wouldn't take it. Um, but all the parts to the Wii, they took all the Wiimotes and the sensor bar and all that stuff. Grand total, all in all, we got $91 in store credit. So he was able to get, and they were running a buy two get one free for used games for the Switch. So he got 3 games from there, which was, what did he get? Yoshi's what I don't even know this. Yoshi's Crafted World, Kirby's Star Allies, um, one of my personal favorites, which Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. Big fan of Super Smash Brothers. And
Did you
then
get any Legend of Zelda stuff?
sure
There it
did.
is.
Which I've already been I have my wife has already called me a dork because when we set up the Switch, I set it up with 3 profiles, one for each kid and then one for myself. The one for myself was mainly set up there so I could set parental controls on it. But I also had ulterior motives, as the first night that we had it, I sat up in the bedroom after the kids went to bed and played the Switch and played Breath of the Wild while sitting in bed, which is really kind of fun. But she rolled over and looked at me and goes, "You're a dork." I'm like, "Yep, I know." And then we also got Super Mario Odyssey, which was
Nice.
which was really the big game that Reese really wanted, was Super Mario Odyssey. That was the game he was. That's why he wanted the Switch, was because he wanted that game. I wanted the Switch because I wanted Zelda. So um, I actually bought Zelda for him. So, but yeah, we got all those. We've had it hooked up. I gotta say, the Switch is freaking awesome. This idea of being able to play handheld, like just throwing it on your TV, like being able to put it in the docking station and put it up on the TV is awesome. The charging, the little remotes charge when they're on the docking station, like on the screen, but hooked to the docking station. They'll charge that way. So I've never had a problem with anything dying on us. Battery power not lasting long enough. Um, Super fun to play. Super responsive. Really kind of fun because the other cool thing is, if you have one player, you can put these 2 controllers together and have one player. But then each one of these controllers has your 4 buttons and your joypad, your your analog stick. So when we play Super Smash Brothers, we each get one of those, and each person then has a controller. Has the shoulder buttons, has like all the buttons that you would have if you have it all together, take it apart, and there's all the buttons are there. So it is really kind of cool that you don't have to buy a second controller to play two-player games on the Switch.
That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I'm like that. It's just really well thought out. The way they put it all together and the way everything all works. It's really, really impressive. Just I find it really impressive with what they've done. And of course, all the games are really fun, or at least the games we have and that I've played are really fun. So loving all that. We did that over the weekend. Um, I went to. I enjoyed a lot of soccer over those since we last recorded. Um, watched the went to two sporting games. Watched the Women's World Cup game and the U.S. Men's in the Gold Cup. So lots and lots of soccer this weekend, which was really fun. And
lots of good soccer.
Yeah, yeah. Did you end up watching the Women's World Cup final?
I did, as a matter of fact. I watched every U.S. women's game in the World Cup. I cannot say that I've ever done that for any of the men's World Cup. So, not that the men are in it all that often anyway, but
right, yeah. Coming from somebody who, for those of you that have listened for a really long time, there's a past episode that is hidden amongst all of the episodes of Kip and one of our previous co-hosts, Logtar, going back and forth on how differing opinions on soccer. So that's always fun.
There is that.
I still remember that episode. So hilarious. So hilarious. And it's out there somewhere. You know it's available somewhere. You'll have to go find it. I don't even know which episode it is anymore. It was so long ago. But
it was early.
Yeah,
it was very early.
Yeah. If you find it and you send an email saying that you found, you know what it is, maybe I've got a whole bunch of keys to video games. I'd be more than happy to send a video game key out to somebody. So there you go. Quiz for Geekvice listeners. Go find what episode number it was that Kip bashed soccer, and I'll give you a free game. All right.
Yeah. Yep. It was funny because I really got into watching the Women's World Cup. I watched a lot. Not just the U.S. I watched a lot of matches. So
the Women's World Cup was really good this year. The games were they were so open. They were fast paced. They moved. It wasn't. Sometimes the soccer can get into that methodical. Honestly, it can get into like an NFL football game where it's two defensive teams and neither team's really trying to score. You can get that same thing in soccer as well, and those games are boring. And this World Cup did not have that. I don't remember, there wasn't a single game I watched that seemed to be like that. It was very attacking, very aggressive and fast paced, and that makes
soccer. There was one, man. Was it? It was early, and I think it was somebody playing in France, and they knew they didn't really stand a chance, so they just played defense the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to keep the higher seed team's score down.
Right.
So the entire match was played on their side of the pitch, and it wasn't boring. I think if both teams played with that in mind, it would have been boring as hell. But one team was like, let's minimize the damage. And the other team was like, let's damage as much as possible. And it kind of worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that can happen. That happens too when you get some lopsided games like that. But sometimes those games are still entertaining because you got one team that's just, gets 20 or 30 shots on goal. And you're just like, man, it's amazing that the score's not 15-0.
Yeah. Kind of
Then you,
like U.S. and Thailand.
right, right, right. Um, all right, so we got to have a little board game topic here, but this isn't just a board game topic. This could really go for any type of game because I started thinking about this when we talked about this before the show. You put this question up here. How many times do you need to play a game to justify its expense? So I'm
Yes.
guessing you put this up here because of board games that you have.
Or board games that I would love to own.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah.
So this is what sparked it. So I watch Shut Up and Sit Down. They're these British guys that do a YouTube channel where they review board games. They reviewed the game called Crokinole, which is a flicking game on a giant round board. And the board, depending on the quality and everything, could cost you $200-300.
Oh, wow.
And I got to thinking it would be awesome to own that game, but how many times would it actually get played?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, how many times would I have to play it to justify spending $300? And then I got to thinking, I own some games I spent $60 on that I've played like once. Did I get my money's worth out of those? So there's where that question comes from.
Yeah.
And
Well, I would even throw out there, you brought up that game that you want to own. There was a Kickstarter going around for a Batman board
oh
game.
yeah,
And I want to say it was Arkham Knights, but I don't think that's right. Um, but it was a Batman miniatures game. It looked amazing, but it was like $200 for just the base game. And like I can't justify spending $200 on anything, let alone a board game. I mean, and that was even one that I was thinking, well, it's Batman. It looks simple enough that I could teach my kids to play. We'd probably get maybe 10 or 15 plays of that thing over, a period of time. But even then, it's like, that's still a lot of money.
it is. And how do you monetize its worth in
Yeah.
plays?
Mm-hmm.
So I got to thinking, well, how much would you pay to sit down and play the game one time? Like somebody had the game and set up and said, come play this game, and you have to pay $5 or something to play, kind of like what Pawn a Pint does.
Yeah.
Is it worth $5 a setting? Is that still too high? I mean, a
Yeah.
$60 game, you're talking takes 12 plays to get that $5 a pop to get your money's worth. Um, it's just a tough call.
Yeah. Well, and then I was, the first thing that I thought of was my video games and my Steam account that I have games that I've purchased and I might not have paid $60 for them, but I mean I paid maybe $10 for something and I haven't even installed it yet, you
Yeah.
know? It's like I ran into a problem back in college when I had the what did I have? PlayStation 2 and I had so many games that like some of them were still in the shrink wrap when I got the Xbox 360. Like I had PlayStation 2 games that I never played because I just had so many of them. I think I still have them I know I still have them down in my basement in a box. What I had close to 50 games for the PlayStation 2. And I know I didn't get my money's worth out of some of those. Some of them I got for Christmas presents or birthday presents because when you're in college, that's the stuff you asked for.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, how many times is it? You know, how many times do you need to, or how do you justify your expenses? I've never really looked at it as a per play expense.
Yeah, that's things you think about when you like to play board games, but you don't get to play as many as you would like,
Yeah,
but you still like buying them,
right, right.
such as I like to do. I have a game that I want to do a review on that I've played the introductory um, story to it, but I haven't actually played the game. I bought it about a month ago,
Yeah,
so still haven't even played it. I bought a game, I don't know, a long time ago, Arkham Horror, which I think was a $60, $65 game. I've probably played it two, maybe three times, and I know I'll never play it again
yeah,
because it takes too long. The setup's it just takes too long, and it's hard to get people to play a game where it could end up taking 3 to 5 hours. So,
yeah,
did I get my $60 worth of that game? Probably not. Maybe if I did a math trade or something, would I maybe recoup something? But, I totally feel like that, for lack of a better term, was a waste of money.
yeah. And that's a. I mean, it's really hard. That's a really hard call, and it's each individual person. I mean, it's never going to be, there's no cut and dry, set in stone. This is what it is. But yeah, I mean, I a lot of the times what scares me away from purchasing a board game isn't whether or not I'm going to get my monies out of it. It's whether or not I can justify putting the money into it. It's like once I have it, then I can play it as many times or not play it at all, and I really ever feel bad about it. Whether it's just a question of how much money did I put into it.
Yeah.
And can I justify that to my wife that looks at me and goes, "You did what?"
It cost how much?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I watch video game reviews and stuff all the time, and I constantly have to tell myself, will this game get played if I bought it?
yeah,
And unfortunately, the answer most of the time is no, or at least not played enough.
yeah. Well, and so what I've tried to do I actually did a really good job with it with the 360. The number of games that I have for the 360, I have quite a few of them, but every single one of them that I have purchased, I have played it all the way through. I have played it from start to finish. I've beaten the game. Um, as much as you can. I mean, I have sports games that you can't really. I mean, how do you beat a sports game? But
Right.
um, but yeah, all the ones I'm kind of looking over here. I think all the ones that I've purchased, I have beaten. I take that back. I got a couple of Skylanders games that we had gotten, some of the old ones, but I think that was a Craigslist find when we found a whole bunch of Skyland characters. It came with all the old games. I don't think we ever went through and actually beat the old ones, um, but out of I got games like Grand Theft Auto 5, beat it. Um, Final Fantasy 13, beat it. You know, I, I do this because they're all sitting just right here above my head. There's Batman Arkham Asylum. I also have Batman Arkham City. Beat both those games. Fable 2, Fable 3. Oh, I take that back. I found one that I didn't beat. Call of Duty World at War. I never end up beating that one. Partly because I really suck at those games, and I tried to be good at it. Um, that was not. But yeah,
Yeah,
and that's
it's
what.
tough. I mean, I don't know how many games for my PS4, and I've played them all, but I've only played through maybe two or three.
Yeah,
So yeah, but I feel like I got my money's worth out of them
yeah,
because you sink a lot of time into a video game. pretty much because it's a solo thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do it anytime. Well, at least for me, but probably for you,
Yep.
when everybody in the house else is in bed.
Yeah.
But board games, you
That's
gotta
harder to do.
get group of people together and actually sit down and play, which I have every Thursday. But we end up playing like 2 games.
Yeah.
So say we played every Thursday. That's 52 Thursdays a year. Say we play 2 games. That's 104 games. And that's like maxing it out. You're not going to play every Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's 104 games. I own 143 games. So there's still 40 games that don't even get touched.
Yeah.
And that's just if we play only my games. Well, we have friends that bring other games in, so we play theirs as well. So,
Well, and I'm
um,
sure, and just like you had said before, there's some of your games that if you get them to the table, if you were to take them up on a Thursday, you're not going to get 2 games in. You're only going to get one because you're going to get
yeah,
because this one game. I mean, you play Battlestar Galactica, you're probably not playing a second game that night.
that's a true statement. So, yeah, I think I've reached that point in my game collecting career where it's like I really have to sit down and think hard. Will this game get played?
Yeah.
I have a I won't say semi, a fairly regular group that plays on Thursdays. Like I'll play this Thursday. Next week I can't play because I'll be in Denver. But, those things happen because of my job. But I have to pick games that probably don't last more than 90 minutes.
Yeah.
90 minutes is like the max. 45 minutes to an hour would be perfect. That way I can get them played.
Well, and so you bring up that question, and that raises another question that I kind of thought of from that is, are like are we seeing is it a cultural thing now where our attention spans aren't long enough to be able to play these longer games? Is that part of the problem, or is it just or is it, maybe it's just the group that you've got?
I think it's the group that I've got. Every now and then I can talk them into playing Battlestar Galactica where that's all we play.
Right.
But for the most part, people in my group want to play more than one game that evening.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad I don't know, for other reasons. We usually shut down about 8 or 8:30.
Right.
So we start about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then we're done by 8 or 8:30. So it's not even like we go late into the night. So
Yeah.
the shorter the better if we
Yep.
want to get multiple games played. So,
Makes sense. I can.
I do the Board Game Geek app where you can set up a challenge
Yeah.
to challenge yourself to play. So mine is pick 5 games for the year and try to play them each 10 times. I did it last year, so that's 50 plays.
Yeah.
Should not be super tough to do. Let me see what last year's challenge ended up at. Last year's challenge, out of the 50 plays, I got 20 in.
Yeah. Well,
So far this year, out of the 50 plays, I have 14 on my challenge list.
well, you're ahead of where you were last year.
Yeah. Well, last year I picked games that were longer, like Scythe, Shadows over Camelot, Viticulture,
Yeah.
Mysterium, things like that. This year I threw some Space Base and Ubongo, which don't take a whole lot of time to play. I have Viticulture on there again, Lords of Waterdeep, and Century Eastern Wonders. I've played Space Base 5 times, Ubongo 4 times, Viticulture 3 times, and then the other 2 won each. So it just, to be 13 again, where I had nothing but time and my friends had nothing but time and you could play, that would be fantastic. I could knock out a challenge in no time. But yeah, well, I guess it's woe is me. I don't get to get the playing time as I'd like to, and therefore it feels like if I buy a $60 game, I'm not going to get the money out of it.
Right. Right. Yeah. I I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain because there's definitely some of those there's definitely some of those games like that that I would love to own and I would love to play. But it's kind of that same, I kind of have that same problem where it's like even with if I'm gonna play a game that's gonna take 3 or 4 hours, I gotta have 3 or 4 hours of like time to play.
Yeah.
And that the sad thing is that happens at like 8, 9 o'clock at night, and play a 3 hour game then, and yeah, well then the next day is a little bit harder. So
Yeah. Well, and you got small children too, so you
yeah,
can't keep them up until
right,
11:30 on a school night, you know.
right,
So yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm pretty jealous of the people who have like the guy who is head of my entire department. I was talking to him yesterday, and he's a board gamer, and he has a group that gets together and they play Gloomhaven,
oh, that would be cool.
and that's a campaign board game
Yeah,
basically. So you have to have the same group of people get together and play this game and commit some time to it. It's like, you lucky bastard, you get to
yeah,
do that.
because
I
I would love to do that. I
Yeah.
thought about buying the game, but I'm like, I I can't justify spending that because I'm not gonna be able to really enjoy it.
I have a feeling if I spent the cost to get Gloomhaven, if it got played more than twice, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's tough. I mean, so that's why I you know, that's why I raised the question: how many times would I have to play the Gloomhaven to feel like it was worth the money? I'd say at least a minimum of 10 times. I'm just gonna
yeah.
throw 10 times out there. I feel if
Um,
I've played a game 10 times, I've played that game.
yeah, uh, I would say so. I would say so. One of these times I have the Board Game Geek app, but I need to go through and actually put all the games that I own in Board Game Geek. Um, I've got most of them, but I don't have all of them. I don't think I have some of the newer games that we got, like Gizmos. But I should actually try to keep track of how many of them we actually play, because we don't play a lot, but when we do, like when we go in our spurts where we play a bunch of games, like we'll get into that, like, oh well, we'll play, you know, we might play 3 or 4 games in one week, because we can sit down in the evenings and what, let's play a board game, or have a Saturday where we don't have something going on. I think this last Saturday, I think Reese and I played Gizmos a couple times, like back to back. So um, we have those every once in a while. Well, before we
Yeah.
get too far into like how long we're recording here, we should probably talk about Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Well, we probably should. So, if you have an idea of what it would take for you to feel like you got your $60 worth, email us and let us know.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm going to throw
because
10 out there.
Kip needs to justify buying a three hundred
I need
dollar
to
board
feel
game
I need to feel good about myself.
because he's gonna go buy this $300 board game and he needs you guys to help him do it. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right, Spider-Man: Far From Home. Um, you had said last week that you thought this was your what was it? What did you say? Your favorite Spider-Man movie,
Yes.
best one so far.
I think so.
I would say the exact same thing. This movie
Excellent.
was amazing. This movie was great. They did such a good job from the storytelling to the and so okay guys, spoiler time here. there will be spoilers in this because we can't talk about the movie without there being spoilers. So, if you haven't watched Endgame and you haven't watched Spider-Man Far From Home, enjoy this episode. What you've gotten up to this point, you should probably stop, go watch these movies. You can come back and listen to this the rest of the way through. Okay, so here it is. I thought they did an incredible job showing, um, portraying how Spider-Man would feel from the death of Tony Stark from Endgame. And on the same side of it, I knew Mysterio was a bad guy from the beginning of this movie because I've read comic books. They're not going to change it that much. I knew Spider-Man was going to have to fight Mysterio and that he was a bad guy. The way they did it in this movie where they played him up as being a good guy and then had that flip, even though I knew it was coming at some point, I thought it was really well done. Like the people next to me, like we went with my neighbor across the street and his son, and then my wife and my two boys, and I was sitting in between my neighbor across the street and my wife, and both of them looked at me when Mysterio came on the screen. They're like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "That's Mysterio." They're like, "Oh, okay." And then when we talked afterwards, they're like, "Man, that was awesome! Like the way that they thought he was going to be a good guy, and then he flipped to being the bad guy. They had no idea that he was actually a bad guy." And you know, it that twist really caught them, and I thought that was really well written and really well played out, not just from a not knowing, but also from a knowing standpoint.
Yeah. You know, and Jake Gyllenhaal was fantastic as Mysterio. I will
Yeah,
give him credit for that role. Um, I also felt, because I did not read the comics, that when you finally realized, holy shit, he's the bad guy, it floored me as well. Like,
yeah,
man,
yeah,
we can't have nice things.
right.
But it worked for me. I mean,
Well, and the way they tied why he was the bad guy. That was
yeah,
the other thing. Like he wasn't just a bad guy that was out to get Spider-Man. Like he really wasn't out to get Spider-Man. Like he
yeah,
was
he didn't want to
fine
hurt
with
him at all.
Spider-Man until it got to the point where Spider-Man was trying to stop him. Like so the way they did that and wrote that all in, I thought was really well and really well thought out. I also got to say that this movie best portrayed a teenager being a superhero and having a life.
Yeah,
I, I thought that was perfect, and it fit well within the timing. That was it was just really good.
it was. I
And it
mean,
was
here
a
you are, you're 16 years old, you battled Thanos, and you're still afraid to tell a girl your age that you like her. Yeah, I think that would be the case, you
yeah,
know. I
yeah,
remember being 16 years old. I was afraid of every girl, you
right.
know. I
Well,
was not Mr. Smooth Operator. Still isn't, but it was even worse back then. So I completely um, connected with that part of Peter Parker.
yeah, yeah,
And, you know, the whole MJ thing I thought worked really, really well. Zendaya is fantastic as MJ. His best friend, fantastic. I loved all of that. But at the end, the first post credit scene, just, to me, it just made the movie work. Um, you could, at the end, you kind of felt like, we can feel happy about this, you know. We can finally say we get nice things, and then the video comes up saying, you know, Peter Parker's the bad guy and Spider-Man's the Peter Parker and all this other stuff. You're like, holy shit, this just put the icing right on that cake.
yeah. And that little reveal, um,
Does that happen in the comics?
the only time that happens in the comics is so in the comic book series Civil War. uh, they go through the Superhero Registration Act, and Spider-Man sides with Tony Stark. He's for revealing your identities, registering with the government that you're a superhero, and dealing with all this stuff. Um, and he convinces Peter Parker to reveal himself as Spider-Man, and so that happens. And from that story, from that event in the comics, it goes over multiple different storylines, but it spirals downhill for Spider-Man really bad in the comics. Aunt May is killed by the Green Goblin, I think, or one of his bad guys, one of his rogues gallery, kills Aunt May. Uh, Mary Jane ends up getting killed. Gwen Stacy ends up getting killed. All the people that are around Peter Parker end up dying. And in the comic books, it forced them into going and basically writing a story that undid all of that so that nobody knew he was Peter Parker anymore, and that those people came back to life because you took it down into a hole where it was harder to write Spider-Man stories, because when you take away, Spider-Man is about his family and friends and saving just the normal everyday Joe. When he loses all those people that keep him going, like Mary Jane and Aunt May, and in this movie is his sidekick, it, you lose the Spider-Man, what Spider-Man is. So I'm curious to see what happens with this. I'm really curious because this opens him up. He's like, somebody has to protect all the people that he knows. He can't go to school anymore.
Yeah.
How's this going to play out? How's this going to work? Um, really curious what Marvel does with this. They could, there could be something with Shield where they fake somebody else's Spider-Man, and so that Peter Parker, so that they take the video as a hoax and no big
I don't
deal.
know.
But
I don't know.
we
Maybe
gotta
they can say Peter Parker's the Night Monkey and not Spider Man.
right, yeah. I don't
I don't know.
wish that
I
was pretty
just
green.
thought when the reveal happened, I just kind of leaned back in my seat, went, man, shit just got real.
Yeah, that's a
And
bomb dropper right there.
it is, and because you just felt good about the way everything happened.
Yeah,
You're like, wow, he won the day. He got the girl. Granted, she didn't like swinging from the webs, but hey, you can get over that. And then that happens. Like, well, there it is.
yeah,
No fun for you.
yeah. That was, that was rough, and I didn't like that. I understand. I liked it and I didn't like it. I wish the movie would have ended without that. I wish that could have come up later. I would have been okay with that. Um, I would have been okay with the fact that they posted the video. That it was the video up to the point that he was revealed. I wish they, you know, saying that he was the one responsible for doing that and blaming Spider-Man for it. I thought that was actually really good and really smart, and that kind of felt like something J. Jonah Jameson would be involved with. It, kind of goes to the deception theme that Mysterio had throughout the entire movie. So I thought that was really good. I just wish they wouldn't have revealed him as Peter Parker.
Yeah, but I guess maybe they. Well, it depends on what the next movie is all about, but I'm sure it's going to be pretty awful
In
that
in
he was
Marvel,
revealed. And
in Marvel, I trust. They have taken all these movies and they haven't led me astray yet, whether I like the idea or not. They have turned it into something really good. So they know what they're doing. I trust them to give us something good. Unlike, Warner Brothers and DC, when they do if they were to do something like this, I wouldn't trust them to turn out something good afterwards. Marvel has shown us that they make good movies. They know what they're doing. They know how to set up and lead into things. Really kind of curious on what they do from here. We'll just have to wait and
Yeah,
see.
yeah. When we watch, to kind of at least shift gears back to the body of the movie, when the wife and I watch a movie, one of the first things we talk about afterwards is what was your favorite scene.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of times, there's a scene or two in a movie that just stand out for me. There really wasn't in this one, and it's not a bad thing. I think the whole movie just worked as one piece to me,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't feel like there was just one scene that stood out above all the others. There was dialogue and moments that I appreciated more than others. I loved John Favreau, and every time he was on screen, and
Oh yeah.
him and the little thing with Aunt May was great. But there was just never that one scene that stood above all the others, because I think all the scenes were super strong in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. And that's why I think this movie really is. I mean, it was a great ending to the third stage of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean,
Yeah.
it was perfect for it. It was one, it was a great movie, and two, it really it really kind of wrapped up that stage three and kind of left us with stuff for stage four. Um, I I thought it was great, and you know the funny part, or not really funny, but the interesting part that I had looking back at the movie was I saw him shoot his web and pull the piece off of the when he was trying to web the Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
And I saw that come off, and I saw it, and I'm like, at first I thought, oh well, maybe there was something, maybe Mysterio had something protected over it, and that was going to be like the thing. I expected the realization that he was a bad guy happen right then, and then when they left it, and it didn't happen until a lot later, I'm like, oh man, like where was it coming? When was it going to happen? And then uh, when they dropped the holographic projector thing and it went off on the bridge, I'm like, oh, there it is, found it. Like
Yeah.
it was just kind of like I was waiting for that moment throughout the entire movie, and so when it happened, I'm like, oh, that was kind of the scene, that was kind of the build up, and then the scene to me that was like, yes, now the movie is really gonna go. Now it's going where I had been waiting for the entire movie for it to go. Um,
Plus, I felt like it was the essence of Spider-Man.
yeah,
He just instantly went from awkward teenager to superhero in that moment.
yeah,
He suddenly went, "Holy cow, that's what this is. This is what this means. This is what's going on." And he was no longer an awkward teenager. He
yeah,
was now, let's save the world.
right.
And I thought that switch was so flawless and subtle that, you know, it's like, yeah, this is what it takes to be Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Um, so yes, you should go see this movie. Absolutely, this movie. Go see it many times. Um,
Yeah.
before we wrap this up, I will want to talk about the second post-credit scene, the very last one, and did it make you, when you saw it, did it make you want to go back and rewatch the movie right then and see if you could pick up hints and clues?
Of course it did.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
second post credit scene, for those of you that haven't seen it and are still listening to all the spoilers, here's the spoiler for the second post credit scene is Maria Hill and Nick Fury driving in a car down the road, singing a little song, and you find out that Nick Fury is Talos, and Maria Hill is another Skrull. They're both Skrulls, shape-shifting as those two characters. And then the question is, how long have they been like that?
Yeah, exactly. And what the hell is Phase 4 going to look like?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I walked out of that going, well, now I have to see it again to see what the hints were.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I cannot wait to see what the next phase is going to be like because that was brilliant.
Well, and here's the thing. I was getting so before we got to that point, because I didn't know what the post-credit scenes were. I had no idea what they were going into this. So as I'm watching the movie, there was something about Nick Fury that bothered me. His his dialogue wasn't as good, his mannerisms weren't as good, his he didn't it didn't feel like the same Nick Fury from that had all the answers and knew everything that was going on.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
it
I did
didn't
notice that too.
it didn't feel right, and I chalked it up to because there's a point in the movie where he flat out says, "I've been gone for I knew everything before. I go away for 5 years and I come back and I know nothing." And I was like, that's where I just like, okay, well, I wrote it off. I checked it off to that. Like, which I thought was perfect that they had that line in there to kind of as the gloss over, oh, this is why Nick Fury has no idea what he's doing. Like, this is why Nick Fury doesn't feel like Nick Fury from before. He's still trying to get his feet under him. This is right after Endgame. He's not been back long enough. He doesn't have all his connections. Maybe some of his connections, were in that 5 year gap as well, and so he really just doesn't know. You know, he doesn't have everything. I chalked it up to that, and then when that post credit scene hit, I was just like, oh snap! And not only did that make me go, that explains everything about this movie, then it made me start wondering about all the other movies.
Yeah, I didn't think about the aspect of all the other movies, but I definitely was excited about
Because,
the future.
because, I mean, Captain Marvel and the Skrulls happened in the 80s. I
Yeah.
mean, realistically, you could make the argument that Nick Fury hasn't been Nick Fury and he's been a Skrull since, I don't know, Captain Marvel after Captain Marvel movie. Now, I don't think that's actually the case. I think Nick Fury was there for a while, but there were also times it would also explain a little bit why Nick Fury wasn't in some of the other movies. Because Nick Fury's role in some of those movies, like Civil War, like uh, what was it, like the third Iron Man movie? There were several of them. They're kind of in the middle section, post Avengers, post Age of Ultron. Yeah, go post Age of Ultron timeline to like Endgame. Even in Endgame, like he's in there a little bit, but not a ton.
Yeah.
You know, there's a
So do
time
you
period
think
in
maybe
there.
the switch happened when he got ambushed in what was it? Winter
Winter
Soldier?
Soldier could
Because he
be.
got pretty messed up.
Yeah.
And he bounced back fairly
Well,
quick.
and he said at the end of that movie, I believe it was the end of that movie, if I remember right, in the end of one of the movies, and I think it was that one, he made the comment about "You're not going to see me for a while."
Yeah.
Actually, it might have been Agents of Shield even that it said. I don't know.
I
One
can't
of
remember. They're all starting to blur
Yeah,
together.
there was a point where he said, "You're not going to see me for a while." Like I got to take care of some stuff in Europe with some friends. Like, you're not going to see me for a while. That's, I'm wondering if maybe that's where the switch happened. That's where and then the question is, what's he been doing in space?
Yeah.
One of the,
Maybe he was the handler for Captain Marvel.
could be,
We don't know.
could be. So
We may
here's,
find out,
yeah,
but we don't know
here's
right
where
now.
here's where my comic book stuff went. My comic book brain went was there is another secret organization in the comic books called Sword. And now I have to
Sword
look.
and Shield, huh?
Yeah, Sword Marvel. What is Sword stands for? Come on, tell me, Wiki. Oh, really? You're not gonna? Can't remember. It's like um, sentient world. Uh, Now I can't even read it. Dang it. Sentient World Observation and Response Department. That's what it is. Yeah. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Sentient World Observation and Response Department. Okay.
Yep. So there's your sword. But what sword is basically Shield in space. They are the group that are watching for extraterrestrials. They're watching for all the threats that could come from space, while Shield worked on all the threats that came from Earth. And so it could be that at that point where he realized that Shield is done and gone and there's nothing he can do about it, um, in Agents of Shield, Nick Fury actually gives Agent Coulson his little black box and says, "Hey, you're in charge of Shield now." So it could be that point that Nick Fury says, "You know what? I need to stop worrying about what's going to happen here, and I need to start going and making sure whatever's coming from space we can take care of."
Yeah, because
And
he did say at the end of the first Avengers, when they asked him if that was the point of all this, so they would know, and he's like, well, now they know, you know, what these are. And he said, every world knows.
yeah,
And it's like, okay, he's got his eye on the big prize as
yeah,
far as protection goes.
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what if maybe that is what it is. Maybe they work that in. Um, my first thought though, so there's that's Nick Fury's. That's what I got out of Nick Fury. The other thought that I had, um, which could be interesting, could be not. They've played in the movie universe. They've played the Skrull as peaceful, just trying to live race.
Yeah, they're supposed to be super bad, right?
In the comics, they're just as bad as the Kree. They're both like very like it. It's we're better than you, and therefore you should die. And the Kree think that about the Skrulls. The Skrulls think that about the Kree, and they hate each other, and so they're always trying to kill each other. It's the war that they really don't even know why they're at war anymore. They just know that they need to kill the other people. So that led in the comic books this idea of secret invasion was the event, and the Skrull. You find out that the Skrulls have been infiltrating Earth's heroes and shapeshifting into the heroes and removing that hero from Earth. So you find out that, hey, this guy wasn't actually, I think it was Hank Pym wasn't actually Hank Pym. He was a Skrull.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, like that kind of stuff. Like Avengers aren't Avengers, they were Skrulls. And so it was a really big deal. and caused a big shakeup, almost like Hydra being in S.H.I.E.L.D. It's that same kind of shakeup. So when I saw Nick Fury and Maria Hill change into Skrulls, I'm like, ooh, I wonder if they're leading into this. But then they showed Nick Fury up in space with a bunch of other Skrulls, so they still could do something like that. Maybe there's an evil faction of the Skrulls out there somewhere that ends up becoming like a battle where you get a little Skrull versus Skrull fighting. I don't know, maybe, could be, but it was interesting, and it just raised that little question. So
That's fascinating. I like it.
comic book ideas. I love what Marvel's doing. I'm excited to see what they do with this next stage, and you know what? I really didn't feel like they gave us options. They gave us lots of things that could happen, but they have never they out of this Spider-Man movie, they didn't give us here's what's coming next, which is kind of good, but also kind of bad. I really want to know what's coming next. So,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was just enough
yeah.
that you felt like, okay, one chapter's closed, another one's getting ready to open.
But you have no idea what that chapter holds.
Yeah, but when it did close, you're like, okay, I'm satisfied, but now I'm pumped.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah, go see Spider-Man Far From Home. Really good.
Do it now.
Really good. All right, we've gone on for an hour now, a little over an hour, so we should probably wrap it up here. You got any last words?
No, I'm terrible at words.
I understand that. All right, everybody, go check out our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. Go follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/geekvice. Follow us on YouTube. Go search for Kip Morph. You'll find us that way, easiest way. Or head over to our Facebook page. You can subscribe right from our Facebook page, which I think is really cool. Some news for our YouTube channel. There are going to be more. I fell behind on Geekvice gaming episodes, but I've been talking with Brady, who I recorded the Civilization game with. We're almost done with that one. We're going to finish that up. And we have lots of more games of cooperative stuff that him and I are going to play. So we're going to have some cool more stuff. We're going to start recording every week. So there'll be lots of content coming on there. And maybe even down the road, if we get enough subscribers and enough people watching these videos, maybe we'll even start doing some live stream stuff of us gaming. So you can join in and chat with us, and some of the games will even be maybe even games where we can take fan participation and you can join us in the game. So really cool stuff coming to the YouTube channel, trying to build it up some more. So go subscribe, like those videos, go check that stuff out. You can also follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at Geekvice. You can follow that man over there at Kip Killigan. And of course, as always, you can reach us by email at geekvice@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody, for listening to our ramblings. We will see you next time.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.